everyone. This is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, January 19th of 2025. The world, right? Crazy town. Now, I have a great message for you today that's going to really focus on the idea of if you've been red-pilled or you've kind of been raised this way and you see the world for what it is and you're watching the world like I am, the question is always, now what? You know, we want to do something positive. We want to be part of the change. And it can seem overwhelming because the things that are coming at us are so intense. And it seems like I'm this one little person, this one little consciousness, and what can I do? So I just want to go over some of my notes in my journaling. And I actually came up with some ideas on what we can personally do that are action steps to help us not feel so hopeless and helpless on days. Now, if you're like me, some days just feel like I'm completely emotionally overwhelmed. And I sit with myself for a minute and I really try not to let that flow onto other people. You know, the people that my husband or my team at work or my siblings or someone that I talk to. I really manage to keep it in and let it out in my journal, but it's really helpful because it's such a roller coaster. So the biggest thing that I really focused on this week was to be present and to be here. And I say this all the time, and you hear this ad nauseum from everyone about being here and being present. But I find myself even waking up in the morning after a full night's sleep. I'm really lucky. And I also pay attention to the conditions, but I sleep really well. And sometimes these last couple of weeks in particular, I find myself laying in bed and trying to go back to sleep just because I'm not ready to face. I'm not ready to face my brain as it goes into overthink, it goes into what I have to do and what's going on in the world. And I will literally lay there for 30 minutes and sometimes even an hour before I get up. This is not normal for me, but just letting my brain go into overthink. So this is what I wrote. Overthink steals my joy. If I have a plan to make this my last time here, then how am I spending my time? That's a good question, right? I need to practice being present. My mind immediately goes into thinking and wondering about things, everything, every little thing, big things, little things. Or so I think they're big things, right? I guess in our own world, in our own mind, the little place where we rotate in, there are big things happening to us. But if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, it's always small things happening in the context of everything else. So I have to force my mind into the now. And I realize that this is even more important than ever. And it's harder than it used to be to bring myself back into just the now. I realized I was cozy and warm and extremely comfortable. And this happened when I was, laying in my bed the other day. I was thinking, I'm doing this every single morning. I don't let myself just get up. When I wake up, I snuggle deeper into the covers. I try to put my mind back into a little bit of a dream state. And part of this is that it is cold in Utah. We're in the middle of winter. I was raised with this great ability to make homemade quilts. I just made this new quilt about a month ago and put it on our bed is what we're sleeping with. It's so cozy and so warm. And I'm like, oh yeah, this new quilt is amazing. So I was enjoying that moment, but what happens is I'll lay there and my mind will start thinking about all the things that are happening in the world. And it used to be I would think about everything that I get to do during the day, everything I need to do, and I would jump right out of bed. And I've been having a harder time doing that. I don't know if you can relate to that. So then I had another interesting thought come in, and this kit was spurred by an email I got on from my video last week. So Elsie, if you're watching this or listening to this, she had a question about the idea, is worry a form of caring? She has a friend who worries, and she feels like it's her way of showing people that she cares about them, is that she's worrying about them. So think about in the context of everything that's happening in the world. And when we worry about people, we worry about potential situations, we worry about just potentialities of everything that could happen, might happen, will happen, whatever. And so basically I just emailed her back and I said, worry actually sits on the Hawkins scale of consciousness at 100. It's a very low negative frequency. Worry sits in the same place that fear and anxiety does. So when you worry about something, you worrying about it doesn't change anything. So, and I am saying this for myself too, because I will worry about things and then I just kind of go, okay, wait a minute, none of that's happened. There is a potential, but okay, whatever. So worrying is a very low vibrational energy. It's a very low frequency, and it is not a form of caring. But I think it's a habit. I think when we worry, it's a habit. We worry about our kids when they first start driving. We worry about when they first become a parent. We worry about when they're 2 years old and they might trip and fall or whatever. We worry about everything. And when you break that habit, it can be very empowering. So then that was a day. And then on another day I wrote, the last 5 years have made me tired. My body, my soul, my consciousness. And I really felt a need to write these down because when I set this burden of these heavy emotions on not just my husband, which I try not to do very often because it can spiral him down too. Sometimes one of my sisters or sometimes a friend. It's actually okay to let those emotions out to people and get their feedback, but I find I get so much more out of letting this out onto paper, because then I can even write other things out and I can ask my higher self the solutions and the answers to these questions. So I've been finding myself these past couple years going into a bit of a pity party on a regular basis, and sometimes I just kind of go, while I'm in it, snap out of it, Jane, snap out of it. But I'm gonna share with you this because my hope is that someone out there might be able to relate to this and realize that these are all normal things, right? So the last 5 years have made me tired. Body, soul, consciousness, everything that makes me, me. Who takes care of me? Like I wrote that like 6 times. Who takes care of me? I take care of everyone else. I feel like I take care of everyone else. And I think this can be sometimes as women, we are caregivers, we're nurturers. I was raised where we don't complain, we shoulder the burden, we endure to the end, and so I spiraled into who's taking care of me? And then I wrote what I need spiritually, emotionally, and physically. I think that is, it's not necessarily the fact that it's a bad place to be, but it's a place to think about and then really write it out, right? This is an individual path. No one else can walk it except for you, except for me. I'm the only one that can walk this. Am I strong enough to see it through? I ask myself that because it's going to get tougher. And I know that it's going to get tougher. What is tougher? Tougher. What does that look like? In what way? So when I wrote it's going to get tougher, then I asked myself, well, tougher, what do you mean? What's tougher? The world, the division. And then I said, I can write down and talk about all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I was having a moment on this day. Some days I want to escape to God. I want peace. I'm tired. And then I wrote, I don't mean to take myself out. I don't mean that. It's not the way. That's not the way to do it. And I don't feel like that. But sometimes I just want to go be with God. I just want to be in that peace, that unconditional love, and I just want to be there, right? So then as I was on my roll and my rant, I wrote this: who takes care of me? If I'm the one I've been waiting for, then how do I take care of me? I think we hear this all the time. If you follow this path where we're told no one's coming to save you, you are the one you're waiting for, you are the one that is is there for you, for yourself, all of this, then how do I take, how? I wrote how in great big letters and I underlined it. How do I take care of me? That's the question. How do I do that? So then I wrote this. You might find this interesting. As I sit here, and I wrote 8 p.m., January 14th, Tuesday night, 2025. Then I wrote a little parentheses. There are fresh chocolate chip cookies in the oven. I was sitting at the counter, and you know what? Sometimes you need some homemade comfort food that's just going to make your taste buds happy, right? So I had some in the oven. I look up and I look out my kitchen window. A big, almost full moon is like perfectly staring at me right from the place I was sitting at the counter. We have this huge kitchen window that I was facing because it faces the inside of my kitchen, and there was the moon. And I thought, it looks too big. Not right, like there's a wizard inside of it, making me sound like a crazy person. And I think that this is from probably all of the reading I've done of David Icke and some of these other people that I follow. And I was like, what's up there? Who's up there? It's like that moon just doesn't seem right. So I'm like, okay, anyone that would read my stuff on another time would be like, I think she's crazy. Anyway, so then I closed my journal, and the next day I wrote, what if we looked at all the good, beautiful, exciting, wonderful things? It can be hard to find happy things once you're red-pilled. And I think that this is the time now for us to have solutions. I think it's absolutely possible to find all these things. In fact, I think it's the best path forward. And then I heard this, and I've heard this many, many times, but this kind of wraps up this one little thought process, because then I have some action steps I wrote down that I want to share with you. You don't change the world by attacking the old systems. You build a new world, and the old one becomes obsolete. And if I'm being honest with you, that's how we do it. That's how we change it. So here's a couple of ways, and I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because it's already at 12 minutes, so that's great. That's perfect. So first, we need to build a parallel system, and here's the thing: that's already happening. There are parallel systems being built, food systems, the way people are starting to take care of their health, the education system. I know a lot of people are opting out of the schools and homeschooling. So rather than raging war on the current systems, we need to channel our energy into creating alternatives with our health, our education, and with our finances, okay? The outcome will be this: the parallel systems will grow as viable alternatives. These will grow as more people are watching other people do them. It's always like the person who starts a crazy, wacky dance, and everyone looks at them like they're crazy until another person joins in and starts doing the dance. In fact, there's a really great video that shows this exact example of this happening. And then another person joins in, and then pretty soon, all the people who are sitting and watching the crazy, wacky dance are the ones that are on the outside. And they, in order to be a part of the crowd or part of the movement, they need to jump in and do the wacky dance, right? So then by doing this, it will draw people away from the old systems, right? Okay, so the next one is that we need to master our inner resilience, and we need to nurture our higher consciousness. This is what I've been focusing on the last few weeks, because to me this is so powerful. What makes us this beautiful human species is this spark of consciousness that's inside of us. Okay, it's the very foundation of being in this turbulent world. A higher consciousness is the very foundation. We need to have daily practices like the things I talk about all the time: meditating, being present, journaling, disconnecting from your technology. That one's probably the most important right now. Above everything is disconnecting from technology, okay? That steals our consciousness so fast. we can work on awakening others, and I believe it's got to be by example, because we cannot be preachy. It never works if someone's preaching at us. And we need to explore what I wrote here is higher states of awareness through things like sound healing, breath work, being in nature. These kinds of things are actually easy ways to raise your consciousness. So what will happen when we do this is we'll have a population that more and more people that join this will have more inner peace and just a higher frequency of vibration. Okay. Now the next thing that I wrote here is that we need to focus on doing what's called regenerative community building. So we need to think about our communities, and we need to think about things that regenerate, that keep our communities going. Okay. So the goal here, and I wrote this, is to go hyper local. Hyper local. It could be the street that you live on, and that is your community. Everybody's growing different things in their yards, and you all share with each other, and you share your skills, you share things with each other. That is hyper local. Okay, so we can create small, thriving communities, and what this makes us is it makes us more resilient, and it makes us harder to control, right? So we need an actionable steps for this would be start community gardens, build spaces where people share tools and skills and knowledge, and we can host like social gatherings and community building things. Like that's always a huge thing, right? And then we can work on energy independence, which is all part of like putting us in a place where we're self-reliant. So we can invest in solar panels, different things. Like this can be very individualized depending on where you live. I also believe that there's a lot to be said about Nikola Tesla's work, where, I haven't done a super deep dive, but I have heard it enough over the years that there is sustainable, renewable, beautiful, clean energy that's available to every human being on the planet for little to no cost. But there's, needing energy to survive makes us controllable. It takes our resources. It keeps us locked into so many bad things. So I believe that is, if that's something that's a skill for you and that's something that interests you, I only see beautiful things coming out of that. Okay, now here's something that I came across my awareness, partly too because I have hobbies, that like painting and things like that keep me creative. So I think we need to become an artisan of culture, and I think this part of this is preserving our cultures, which to me is incredibly important. So art, music, storytelling, all of these things, they help shape human consciousness. These shape us. They shape us into raising our vibration. So we can write novels, we can make films. Anyone can pick up their phone and make a film. We can subvert expectations. Okay, now think about that. When we use humor, irony, and edgy creativity to expose cracks in the old system while offering hope for something better. Storytelling is perfect for that. Okay, so listen, this came across my awareness. Cultural immortality. We can focus on producing work that resonates with human truth and beauty, ensuring that our ideas will live on even as some of these older systems crumble. And I talked about this last week as far as the idea of how important books are. Books and storytelling and preserving knowledge. This is where some of the most ancient wisdom is still available to us, is in things like the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I haven't studied that stuff extensively. This is where I love the work of someone like Greg Braden. I love his everything about him, everything that he shares. I think is very, very powerful. So then this. we need to leverage technology ethically, because technology has a beautiful, there's so many beautiful things that it can do for us as humans. And so here's what I wrote. Technology can be a liberator or an oppressor, and we need to use it wisely. We need to decentralize information. We need more alignment with AI, and we need to alternative realities. And here's what I wrote about that. We need to harness virtual and augmented reality so that we can create immersive experiences that inspire people to see what's possible. So this is where we can use AI so that we can show people what the world, the potentiality of the world, right? Okay, so then this, because I think that for many people, ignorance continues to be bliss. And this is where I find myself a little stunned at people that still walk around the world and they just, everything seems normal, going back to normal, especially people who feel like this last election released all their worry and their fears. You know, that I watched that and I'm like, wow. I really don't know what else to say about that. So every battle is worth fighting, but pick your fights with care, okay? We need to focus on what we can change instead of obsessing over the vastness of the whole system. Like I talked about just a tiny bit earlier, this is where it's like, it can be overwhelming to be this one little person, this one little family, this one little community with the vastness of the whole thing, you know, and it can seem overwhelming. So we need to limit our exposure to fear-based media and propaganda, okay? And we need to instead, we need to consume the things that inspire us. You know, consume the things that inspire you so that when you're done consuming it, you feel inspired to take action, to take great action on something that's going to add to the collective, right? I think that we also need to realize that we can be a bridge between the people who aren't red-pilled and the people who continue to swallow the blue pill, you know. And I don't mean this in any way derogatory type of way. You know, I have close family members who swallow the blue pill every day. And okay, it's their journey, and I've released any anxiety about it, and I've also realized that I can be a bridge, and if it's a bridge that's chosen to be crossed by myself or by another person, I can choose to be a bridge. So here's what I wrote about that. For those who feel red-pilled, it can be tempting to distance yourself from those who don't see it, but I feel like we need to resist it. We need to resist that. You know, I find that people who maybe watch, you know, I just kind of had a realization about that. People who watch people who they consider maybe conspiracy theorists or on the wrong side of the political spectrum, or the way that they see the world, all the other things like the medical system and education and the finance system. If I were to really truly share what my beliefs are about these systems, I think people would think I'm crazy. In fact, I know that for sure, some of the people that I'm thinking of. So we need to lead by example, by showing, by living authentically, how it creates joy and freedom. And I think that's the very best way to do it. So we need to prepare. Let me see if I can read this the way I wrote it out. Prepare not from a place of fear, but from a place of like strategery. Like, that's a funny word. So maybe look at it as strategic foresight. Like, I am getting a foresight. I'm preparing not because I'm afraid. I'm preparing because I see things based on all the stuff that I look at and I research and I tune into. I'm having some foresight, and I can prepare from a place of strategic foresight rather than fear. That's so much better. We can practice critical thinking and stay adaptable to change. This, to me, staying adaptable to change is one of the most important things that any of us or all of us should be doing, because change is going to come at us faster and faster and faster, and we have to be adaptable. And it's, to me, that's one of the most important things. We have to not absorb it and let it take us down. You know, we don't want to go, oh, that's so hard, I'm gonna have 3 glasses of wine tonight because I just can't deal with it. That doesn't do anything to serve you by numbing yourself out to it. We need to be adaptable to change. And this is not a slam on anybody who wants to. If you choose to numb yourself out, you know, that's a journey that you get to go on. And nobody judges. This really is not about judging. We need to build a trusted network of like-minded individuals who we can share skills and resources and ideas with. So this is something that I've been working on the last couple of years, especially, is I want to surround myself, not just physically, but communicate by phone or email or a Zoom call if necessary, with people who I can collaborate with and I can bounce things off of, you know, and I can not feel like I'm crazy when I call somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I see that too, and let's do this about it, or I see that too, and let's change that and do this instead over here. That has really saved me, is surrounding myself with like-minded people. What this does is this will empower us to thrive in the face of any type of transformation that happens, because I think that there are beautiful things that we can not only see in the world now, right now, if we really look, if we be here now, but beautiful, amazing, mind-blowing things that are coming in the future for humanity. I really believe that. And then this is where I'm going to end this, because to me, this is my jam. This is what makes me happy. We need to collaborate with nature. Whether you start a small garden, whether you start, even if it's growing something in a pot that lives in your kitchen window, we need to collaborate with nature. Every Thursday I drop a video on my YouTube channel that's herbal. It's some herbal information. And the things that I share are some of these herbs are ones that grow everywhere. They're considered weeds, and you could live off of them if you knew how to identify them and forage for them, and you knew what parts of the plant to use. So to me, this is collaborating with Mother Nature. So here's what I wrote. Nature doesn't resist. It always regenerates. Nature doesn't resist what's happening. We need to be like Mother Nature, okay? We need to engage in restoration projects in our areas, because every area has different plants that grow, they have different medicinal properties, and I think if we start engaging in these things, it's gonna benefit us, not just in the short term, but in the long term as well. So it helps us align with natural principles that can really provide sustainability and harmony. And I think we need to get out. We need to get outside at least once a day, even if it's super cold where you live. You know, this is something that I don't go on I have this great 5-mile walk. I've told you about 100 times. I don't do it every day in the winter because we have really bitter windy days, and it gets really super cold. It gets below freezing on a regular basis. And even though I have a lot of things to bundle up in, I don't get out every day. Now I get out every day, and I'll spend some time out just to clear energy, to clear stuck energy. And you might be a person who opens windows in your house, even in the dead of winter. To me, that's just as important, because it moves energy. It moves energy around. So what I would say, let's wrap this up with just the idea of jumping aboard the action steps that those of us who feel compelled to raise their consciousness and change the frequency, let's focus on the things that make us human. You know, this is one, you know, I listened to a couple of short things by Greg Braden this week, and he talks about the humanness, what makes us human. And it's a really beautiful thing to be a human being and experience what we're here to experience. So, I'd love to know what it is that you do. Some of these things I wrote down and chatted about, what is it that moves you to a place of not being distraught over the fact that you see the world for what it is. It's an interesting time to be alive and to be aware. And this week, my plan is to be more present. And my biggest goal is not to have any pity parties at all for myself. And I'm going to take action, physical action, if I start to be feeling bad for myself. I'm going to throw my coat on and I'm going to go outside. And I might even just walk to the end of my street. If I'm at my warehouse, I'm going to walk around the buildings that are there. I am not going to let myself dive into any type of feeling sorry for myself. I'm just not going to let it happen this week. I'm going to get physical. I'm going to get my coat on. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to breathe the air. I'm going to move my arms. I'm going to look like a crazy person if I'm being erratic with how I'm moving. But this is my goal, because the last few weeks, I've journaled out some whatever. Why am I feeling so bad for myself? So I would love to know what you think and what it is that will drive you into action, regardless of all the crazy things that are happening. So I love you guys tons. Thanks for being here, and we will see you next time.